Hello, I hope you haven't been waiting long. I'm Jeremy Nicholas and I'd like to share with you a chapter from my new book, Mr. Moon Has Left the Stadium, Confessions of a Matchday Announcer. And the chapter that I've chosen to read for you today is all about Betty the Tea Lady, and it's called Betty the Tea Lady. I've worked with some lovely people over the years at West Ham, and one of my favourites was Betty the Tea Lady. Every match day, Betty would bring me a flask of tea, first to the shed and later up to the announcer's box. She must have been well into her 70s when I first joined the club and worked into her 80s. She was a real character, reminding me of my nana. She'd always stop for a few words, probably to get her breath back. The move from the shed, which was at pitch level, to level 3 of the West Stand wasn't a popular one with Betty. Lift or no lift, it was still a long way from the kitchens. She'd come to me after she'd taken the players their drinks, giving me an idea of their form by saying things like, "Paolo's in a good mood, laughing and joking. I reckon he'll score today." Or she'd say, "Some of them look a bit tired. I reckon we're going to get done." She was a popular figure behind the scenes. Everyone got on well with Betty, but there was one man she couldn't stand. Referee Graham Poll was Betty's arch enemy. In her opinion, Poll didn't like West Ham. Whenever he refereed one of our games, Betty would be in a bad mood. She'd bring me my tea, piping hot in a flask, and then she'd spend a good few minutes letting off steam. I could have earned a few bob as her therapist. "He never gives us nothing. I said to him, 'When are you going to give us a penalty?' He never said a word. I don't know what we've ever done to him. I tell you what, Jeremy, I ain't sure he's ever given us a throw-in." And with that, Betty would get off laughing, and everyone in the announcer's box would laugh with her. She was West Ham through and through, having organised travel to away games with her husband in the 50s and 60s. And when he died, she still loved being part of the club, making teas on a match day. Well, one day, Betty was in a very jovial mood, a bit of a surprise when you looked at the officials who were named on the team sheet. "We've got that Graham Poll again today," she said, having just taken tea and biscuits into the referee's room for the 4 officials. "I've give him plain digestives, and he says to me, 'Ain't you got no chocolate ones?' I says, 'No, we've run out, but I tell you what, Jeremy, we have got some. Look, I brought you some. I told him they've run out, because I know they're his favourites. He don't ever give us nothing.'" Poll had made the mistake of once telling Betty he loved his chocolate digestives, and from that day, whenever he was officiating at West Ham, the chocolate digestives mysteriously disappeared. He was lucky to get plain digestives, as Betty thought about giving him rich teas, but she wasn't a vindictive woman. I don't remember Graham Poll being biased against West Ham. I think in general he was a good ref. He fancied himself a bit and liked to be the centre of attention a bit too much, but he was certainly competent. Poll must have thought that West Ham's catering suppliers were very slack in topping up the chocolate digestives. Little did he know it was just our Betty's way of settling a score. She thought he didn't give us anything, so he missed out on his favourite biscuits. When it came to referees, Graham Poll wasn't Betty's cup of tea. She even started telling the other refs about it. I feared someone would grass her up and she'd get into trouble, but they never did. Say what you like about refs, they're not whistleblowers. When Betty retired, she came for a chat on the microphone with me before a game. She went to live with her sister in the northeast and died soon after. I like to think she's now watching games from the great grandstand in the sky. Knowing Betty, she'll have it all organised, with her husband on one side and Bobby Moore on the other. She'll be in the middle with a huge flask of tea and some biscuits, and I bet they're all chocolate digestives. Well, that's a chapter, Betty the Tea Lady, from Mr. Moon Has Left the Stadium. You can read another chapter for free yourself on my website, which is called mrmoonhasleftthestadium.com. I hope you enjoy it. Don't have nightmares. Good night.